Today we're going to look at a couple things. We're going to look, first of all, about putting an image on your page, which is important, of course, because there's very few websites that are text only, right? So multimedia, it's like images, audio files, things like that are important in the web experience. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at putting images on the page. I do want to mention about copyright because, I do things by the book, and the fact that there might be sites out there that don't follow these guidelines doesn't matter to me. We want to do things proper and legal. All right. And what that means is if you, in an educational context, there's different rules than there is in the real world. If you're opening up a business, all right, or creating a personal website. And those are outlined in this right here, document. Fair use guideline, and please read that. So the question is, can you use stuff from another person's site on your web page? And in an educational context, yes, you can. All right, provided it's for educational and provided that you don't take too much. All right, and the third thing is provided that you give credit. So if I wanted to do a website about the Cleveland Browns and I went to the Cleveland Browns website and I downloaded one of the images and I wanted to put it on my page for this class, all right, it's fine, right? But put it on your site and give credit, and don't take dozens of pictures. Take maybe a limited number of pictures. Then on the bottom of the page, maybe in the footer, say images from clevelandbrowns.com or whatever the website is. So please follow this. Now, if you've taken the images yourself, then there's no problem with that. You own the copyright to it. You might say on the bottom of the page in a footer that, author took these pictures. So the author has a copyright for it. Another way that you can get images that you probably won't use in an educational context, but people use in the real world, is going out to stock photo sites. So like there are sites out there where you can download, where you can purchase the rights to download images. So you could search for, let's say, I wanted to do something about our college. I could download one of these images, provided that you purchase it, that you purchase the rights for this. And the website will have instructions about what you need to do to purchase the rights to it. Another way is look at the licensing of the image. So, for example, we wanted to search for images you have somewhere here or here, there. Usage rights as an option. And you can look to see, you can look and filter out based on usage rights. There's something called a Creative Commons license, which essentially is these images, people that take the picture and who own the copyright for it are allowing you to use it provided that you give them credit. Now, again, let's differentiate the two things. Developing for this class, you can take a picture off of a commercial website and use it. What I've talked about purchasing stock photos and looking for Creative Commons licenses and things like that are if you were building like a commercial website or building a website for a business or an organization or a personal portfolio or something like that. But you could search for Creative Commons license and any of these pictures you could use provided you gave credit because it's licensed under a Creative Commons license. Now, they don't filter for it here, but there's also what's called the public domain. And this picture, for example, is in the public domain. What does that mean? That means that it's considered to be owned by the general public, and you don't have to do anything to do it. You can use it as though you took it yourself. All right, so we want to stay legal here. So in this class, that means, generally speaking, don't take too many images from one site and give credit to where you've taken the images from. All right, so let's look at how we create an image on a web page. I'm going to open up this page, this tutorial page in Notepad. I picked Notepad simply because for anyone that uses Windows, this is available on every Windows machine. Later on in the semester, I might use another application to open it up. And you're welcome to use whatever application you want to if you're aware of a text editor besides Notepad. But Notepad is most simple and straightforward. So open it up. All right. How do we do things in HTML? How do we add content to the page? With a tag. And right here is the tag for an image. All right. Now there's some things different about this. All right. Some things different about this. First of all, the tag is IMG. You then have as part of the tag these things that are called attributes. Now we've seen attributes before when we looked at links, right? Because we have the A tag for links, but we're linking to what? We have to specify. And we specify that by saying href equals and then say what we're linking to. It's sort of the same thing with images. We're saying right here we have an image. And what is our image? Our image, the source of the image, src equals 1.jpg. What does that mean? That means that in the same directory as the web page, right? Tutorials here, we have a file called 1.jpg. And if we do that, there we get a picture of the sunflowers showing on our web page. This is important. This is the alternate text. One thing that's important to consider when you're developing websites is that people access the web have different abilities and disabilities. All right. So some people that access the site are visually impaired. Some might be totally blind, some might just have extremely bad vision, some may be colorblind, but they might have some visual issue. The alt text supplies an explanation of what the image is that can be read by a piece of software called a screen reader. Now, we'll talk more about assistive technology and screen readers later on in this class, but this is the first tag where this is really relevant, where we have to take some special measures to make sure that this tag is handled correctly by screen readers. And we do this by having an alt attribute. And we just have a short little explanation. There's actually another one that's used less common. Let's see if this shows it. Long description. Long description, you can actually put in the website, the image, a complete web page that has the explanation about what the image is. That's less commonly used. And what I'm going to be expecting in this class is that any image that you have alt text for. All right. And it just needs to be a sentence or so that explains it. And it's important for people that are visually impaired. This is a text that also will appear if the image, for some reason, the file wasn't there. So let's say I delete that image and go and look at the page again. Notice we see a picture of sunflowers taken in autumn, the text there. That can maybe help us find the image if it turns up missing. There is nothing in front of the image because it's in the same directory. Later on in the class, we'll talk about putting things in different directories because you can organize your files on a website just like you organize files on your own computer. You have a different folder for different things. Now, one thing that that you shouldn't do is what's called hot linking. Hot linking is something like this. Let me go to, I don't know, let's continue the analogy and go to the Cleveland Browns website. Let's say I want to put this picture on my page. That's actually the URL of the picture. I can do this. And get that picture on there. I probably shouldn't even showed you how to do that because I don't want you to do that. That's called hot linking. Now, what is wrong with hot linking? Well, for one thing, you're using their server resources because the browser has to go to their server to pull up that file, to access that file. And that is putting unnecessary burden on their server. You're stealing the bandwidth that their server has. The other thing, and this actually was an issue for someone's political campaign a few years back. What if the Cleveland Browns changed that picture to something else? Or what if someone changed, Yeah, change the, even other than the Cleveland Browns. What if someone changed the picture to something else? What if they change the picture to something potentially embarrassing for your website? If you've hot linked to that, you have no control, and you're going to get the new picture that they have put up. If they put up a new picture that had this exact same file name. So don't do that. It's actually better in this case to download a copy of this. So I could save that image as, and I could put it on within my folder. And I'll call it something like 4.jpg. And I can go and save it, and it'll use it that way. All right. That's actually better because I'm not stealing bandwidth. I'm just downloading it once and putting it on, putting my copy on the page. And I'm not vulnerable if the owner of that image decides to change that image to something else, that it could potentially embarrass my my site. Actually, again, as I mentioned, someone in a political campaign hot linked to a photo, and the owner of the image didn't like it, saw that they had not been hot linked to, and actually did change the photo to something embarrassing. And it took a little while before the candidate realized that happened. And again, that taught them a powerful lesson in on why not to hot link. Okay. Let's go back to normal here. Now, this class is not a multimedia class. The multimedia class is a multimedia class. And so I know some of you at least are enrolled in that class. But if you have an image, all right, make a copy of it before you edit it. All right, there's a good reason for that. So let's look at some of these images I have here. My folder. All right, here's an image. Really big image. All right. Let's say I want that on my website. I can put in the name of that image. It's the source. It's in the same folder, so all I have to do is say 2.jpg. Save it. Wow, that's a big sunflower. All right. I probably want it smaller than that. Now, you can put HTML attributes to control the size of the image, but I would not suggest doing that. I would suggest making a copy of the image. You should have backups of your files anyhow, all right? But I would specifically make a copy of this image. I'll put it somewhere else for safekeeping. And then I'm going to go in and edit it. Now, again, there are all kinds of photo editors available online. Let's see what's installed on this. Image viewer. Why is there not an open with option here? Oh, right there. I'm going to use what's called GIMP. And GIMP is a free and open source application. That means you can download it for free. It may not have all the features of Photoshop, but guess what? It is for free. All right. So Photoshop has a lot of great features, but it costs something. So I'm going to go here and open it up in GIMP. Stands for New Image Manipulation Program. I can do all kinds of photo editing here. Again, this is not a photo editing class, but there's tutorials available online that show you how to use this. But I wanted to show one thing specifically. I can do this. I can go up here in the image size, layer, scale layer. I can scale this. Right now, this is 4,000 by 3,000 pixels. That's a big image. I can maybe make it to, let's make it 400. And that makes it much smaller. Zoom in all the way and see the actual size. That's more of what I want. Now notice when I do this, there's a little looks like a chain link right here. That means that those two are linked together, which means if you change one of the fields, it will adjust the other one at the same time. So I make this 4,000, 400 rather. It changes the other one to 300. So it kept it in the proper proportion. That's the same proportion as the size. It's called the aspect ratio. It's the same proportion as the original size. One thing that it's definitely the mark of an amateur website if you edit this and you don't keep them connected. So for example, if I say 4,000 or 400 rather by 200 and I scale it, I get this image that is misproportioned. Notice it's not as tall as it needs to be, so it looks squashed together. Or you could do the opposite. You could elongate it if you made the ratios wrong. So it's painful to me for me to see that on websites. So please don't do that. If you resize your image, resize it, make sure you keep the same ratio between the vertical and horizontal length. All right, anyhow, I'm going to go and I'm going to scale this. Back to 400 by 300. And I'm going to save this. Oh, I'm going to overwrite to JPEG. Does its thing, asks us some questions. We click export. And there we go. Oh, you know what? Shouldn't have said resize layer. Scale image. I did the wrong one. I did layer instead of image. My mistake. Scale image. There we go. You can overwrite it. And now we see it the size that I want it. All right. Now, if I didn't do a backup, what happens if I decide I want this image big again? All right. It's kind of goofy, but what if I did decide that? All right. I could go and I could open it up again. It's going to open up the 400 pixel wide version. And if I make it bigger, I try to put it to about the original size. Not sure if how well you can see this, but the picture has become blurry. That is the edited version that I made small and then made big again. Let's compare that to the original version, which was the big version. Let's make them, let's zoom in the same amount on both of them so we can compare them. Okay, it's zoomed 100%. Let's zoom this one 100%. The original one is pretty sharp, even at this big image size. This one, as you can tell, is far less sharp. The bottom line is when you make an image smaller, you lose some information. If you go back and make it bigger again, not all that information is there. The software will try to compensate for it, but it doesn't always do a good job. That's one of the reasons why you always keep a duplicate of the image. All right. Any questions about any of this? Yes.
Use CSS to like edit the images.
Okay.
Make any difference or?
Why not use CSS? That's a great question. We're going to talk about CSS in a minute here. All right. You could use CSS to resize the image. And we're going to talk about that later on, especially when we talk about responsive design, when you have, when you want it to be a percentage of the size and not a fixed size amount. The problem with using CSS is if I had a lot of images, it would need to download the full size of each image, and then CSS would shrink them. So that would be a lot more stuff it was downloading. All right. And then I mean, it would work, but it would make for a longer page download. The funny thing is, you know, it's interesting. Download speeds are so fast these days that some issues like that are a lot less important than they were, you know, even 5 years ago, you know, or definitely 10 years ago. So yeah, you could do that. So part of the reason I didn't show that is we haven't covered CSS yet. All right. And part of the reason is you'd still have that problem a little bit of, you know, you're downloading the original size, you're downloading a bigger image. And that is a perfect segue into the next topic, which is CSS. So far, we've been covering HTML, which is the content of a web page. Let's go back to our first page. Ignore this line for a minute. Pretend it's not there. Okay. The content of it, all the text, any of the images, and so on. I have the wrong page open. Let's look at this page. It's more like it. The content is the text, any images that we have, links, and so on. Content on a web page is conveyed via HTML, right? Create HTML to show, if I want a new paragraph, paragraph tag. If I want a new image, image tag. Want a heading, heading tag. All those things are done in HTML. If I want to change the appearance of the page, I can do that through a different language called CSS. And let me show you a quick example of that using the style tag. The style tag tells the web browser, hey, we're not in HTML land anymore. We're in CSS land. So anything will be interpreted as being this new language that we're talking about. Now, HTML is the content of the page. CSS is the appearance of the page. So if you notice, all the pages that we've done so far in this class, we look at, they would all look something like this. Same font size, same color, and so on. Say I wanted to change the color of the page. I could do this. Body. Background. Or background color. Either one works. Okay. Then I look at the page and I may have been looking at it inside of the zip file. All right. Hey. Oh. I'm guessing this could be it. Yeah, I'm going to clear my history. Oh. Did anyone spot the error? It's inside the title tag. So it thinks it's part of the title. Someone has a case of the Mondays. Take that out of the title tag. And this works. If this doesn't work, we're going home. There we go. That's kind of in your face, so let's change it to a more subtle color. There you go. All right, we can see it's gray. Now let's look at this and interpret what it's saying. The word body out here, notice it's outside of the curly braces. That's what's called a selector. All right. The selector says what is going to get the style rule. And the style rule is the stuff that's included here. So here I say the body gets that. I could say the H1 tag gets that instead. And then only my H1 tags get that style rule. So the first part of it says what gets this style rule. The second part is the actual style rule. And in this case, it says background color gray. So the background color of it, colon, gray. The name of the attribute that we want to change and the value. Now you can't just put anything in, you have to get the right name. And if you look up CSS, it'll tell you the names for the attributes and so on. Just like you can't put just anything here too, that won't work. And if you can't figure it out, it won't do anything with it. Now we can have more than one attribute. I can say color white. The color is the color of the text. So background color is the background color, color is the color of the text. Already this web page is starting to look a little more professional looking. Just a couple small changes. Now, most of the time we don't put our style code right in with the HTML. You can do it, and it's a good way to start, but we create what's called an external file. So let's look at the way that would work. I'm going to go here and rename this to site.css. I'm going to open up tutorial in Notepad. We have this line of code. This tells the browser to pull the style sheet from this file. And I'm going to replace this code with this. So now if I look at the page, it'll have the style rules that are contained in this file. We'll take a look at that. We'll start looking at it today, and we might look at it a little bit more next week. Well, let's look at the site CSS file. All right, wow. It's pretty simple. I made a drastic difference in the appearance of the page, but it's really only a few lines of code. Now, after the background, we have this 7-character thing. Starts with a pound sign, and then there are 7 characters. I'm going to explain to you what those mean, but if it doesn't make sense to you, don't worry about it, because you can look them up. So, seven-digit code. The pound sign says we're using what's called hex code or hexadecimal. All right. Our normal number system is called the decimal system, right? Decimal means 10. So we have 10 digits, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's the number of digits we have, right? A 10 is a 1 plus a 1 and a 0. Any number that you have is that some combination of those 9 digits, 0 through 9. Now in hexadecimal, the numbers are a little different. They go from, we have 16 digits, and they go 0 through F. So we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, A, B, C, D, E, F. All right. So an F is higher than 9. F is higher than D. A is less than an E, and so on. Each of these digits, each of these numbers are comprised of 2 digits of that hexadecimal code, and they represent the colors red, green, and blue. As we are mixing different color lights, imagine we have 3 big spotlights. They're all pointed at the same place on the screen. All right. In fact, in the old days, big screen TVs were like this, projection big screen TVs, probably way before anyone's time. But they would have 3 flashlights flashing red, green, and blue. All right. Now, the higher the number means the more of that color. So FF would mean that it's full blast red. All right. G of 0 would mean no green. So far we're all red, no green. And if I put a number here like 77, let's say, that's a medium amount of blue. So this would be kind of a shade of purple that was more red than blue. So let's look at this. Let's go and change this to the number I have here. And there it is. It's not completely red, but it's kind of blue. If I up the blue value, it becomes more of a even balanced purple. And I screwed up my color scheme. Now I can also use the color name, but I have to get the precise name. How do I know what color names are available? Shows me a list of them. That's Alice Blue, Antique White, Aqua, Aquamarine, Azure, Beige, and so on. And below it shows the hex code. So let's make this antique white. So I could either type in get that, or I could type in hex code that it has, which is FA. I copy it. This will give me this identical results. Right. So you can get a hex code. There are tools available like color mixers, where you could pick the color that you like. Like, let's say I like this shade of green. Well, it tells us that shade of green is 99FFCC. This is a color that doesn't have a name, all right? There's no name for this color, I don't think, anyhow. But I could use the hex code and get that color. There's also color mixers, or color, that was a color picker, color mixer. Oh, that was a color mixer. Let's go to color picker. It's like the same thing to me. All right, anyhow. Oh, I see what they're doing. They're creating gradients. All right. Now, I'll introduce this today, and we'll probably come back to this next time. But there are available color scheme generators that generate sets of colors that go together. And we'll talk more about this next time, but I could go here and notice as I'm doing that, the pane to the right of it changes. And this will show me an example of what a website might look using that color scheme. And if I put my mouse hover over it, it shows me the hex code for that. So this is FFD5AA and so on. It shows me a table of the colors that I can use. That allows you to pick colors that go together, and they go together in actually a scientific way. There's things like complementary colors and so on that are very valuable, that are known to go together. Well, this is a different one. The one last thing I want to look at before we finish today is, this is for the background color, this is for the text color, but a font size. Notice I have for H1 font size 4EM. EM means emphasized, so that is 4 times the normal font size. So if you notice, the H1s are a little bigger than they were without that. If I get rid of this, the H1s are that size. If I put it in, save it, the H1s are bigger. So we've seen how we can do 2 things. And we can do these to anything. We can do these to a paragraph if we want. Font size 1.5 M. We'll make it a little bigger than normal. If you notice, all our paragraphs got a little bigger. All right, we'll play around with this more in class next time. I strongly encourage you to go and play with this. That's the way, almost everyone I know that is successful as any kind of developer has spent a lot of time playing with code. So in this case, go to this CSS generator. See the things that you can do to text. Right? You can change the color. And the nice thing, the cool thing is you can go and change the color and see the result. You can also do things like decorate the text, put a line through it, put a line under it, and so on. All right, so that's all I have for class today. We will see you either in lab or see you next week.